Hey, this is Doug Hammett here with Christian-parenting.org. This is episode number 7, and I'm high atop Table Rock Mountain here in Cape Town, South Africa, and my wife and I are here celebrating our 41st anniversary, and so I wanted to just shoot a quick video for you here and tell you just a little bit more about parenting issues, if I may. We talked in the last episode about the issue of raising children, and we talked, of course, about raising children, right? But we talked about especially the issue of raising children that become tyrants and manipulators and control freaks and in control of everything and forcing their way in. And of course, not the kind of a child that you or I want to raise as parents that are concerned about Christian values. We want our kids to turn out instead to be godly men and women who will serve the Lord Jesus Christ. But how do you do all of that? Well, we talked about that as we looked at Pharaoh's life especially and talked about a few issues there. Now I want to kind of flip the circle the other way, because this is the opposite problem that often happens in Christian homes. Moms and dads take full charge and take real control. I've seen this happen in families where the kids go to Christian school, some into even public school, yes, and even with homeschool families. And because mom, dad really want to raise godly kids, they get overbearing, they get over-controlling in their kids' lives, and they begin to just really take charge, like Pharaoh did with the children of Israel. He began to lay the tasks upon them until they were so grievous that the Jewish people, by and large, could not, maybe you just saw that cable car going up in the background there, headed up to the very top of the mountain. No, I didn't get there. Well, one day I'm going to, maybe in the millennium. But anyway, the idea is that what we want to do with our kids is not put them on the very bottom. We don't want to take them to the very top of a egomaniac where they think that everything revolves around them in life. And at the same time, we want to be careful that we don't push them down to the point to where they can't handle life at all. And this becomes a balance issue. Often as parents, and I think this is where I started out as a parent when I began parenting, I thought, boy, I'm going to really take charge. My kids are going to toe the line to the point to where I do all the thinking for them and all the barking of orders. And in turn, what that does is, in the early life, it turns kids into a kind of a fearful child, afraid of doing anything lest they get in trouble. And then as they grow older, can very quickly turn into an issue of rebellion because the child wants out from under control. Or, as some of the children of Israel were, many of them in the days of Moses, they refused to follow Moses and would not stand up to Pharaoh because they were afraid. They thought things would get worse for them. And that's not where we want our kids to be. We want our kids to turn out to be able to think for themselves, to speak for themselves, to voice their own opinion, and yet at the same time be humble enough to bow to those in authority and step aside and be willing to deny themselves when the time is right. To raise a champion for God requires that we as parents do a very careful balancing act in this issue. So how would you do that? Well, let me recommend to you that, first of all, it begins with you as a parent learning to listen to your children and learning that very, very issue of how to talk, how to listen, how to ask questions, open-ended questions that would help your children open up to you instead of jumping down their throat and immediately showing displeasure. Learn to listen carefully and to listen for where their heart is. And take that away from you with some prayer and some thought to be able to come back and shape and mold their lives. Then, not only listening, learning to ask those good questions, those open-ended questions, begin to practice them. And then I'd say also in learning to think critically, carefully about issues and problems and things that might be obstacles in their way of life. I prefer the Goliath model, if you will, that I often teach. And don't really have time on this episode to be able to talk about that. Maybe one day we can run through that for you. But let me encourage you that if you have some interest in further parenting help, there's things on my webpage there at Christian-parenting.org. You can hop over there. Some of them are free. but I'd really encourage you to take a look at the Parentcast over there. It's a nominal fee, but gets you right into the very heart of parenting and how to train your kids and raise your kids, and I think would be a great help for you if you're serious about raising your kids for Jesus Christ. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this broadcast. Wouldn't you just go down right now and share it with your friends, encourage your friends to come here, and let them know that there's some help here. If they're really concerned about godly kids, get a hold of these broadcasts. They're free. Take a look at the Parentcast and the things that are there on our web site over there, Christian-parenting.org. And like this video, if you're on YouTube, just go ahead and like it if you would, and share it with other folks so that they too can know about this and get hold of it. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. Pray that God will bless you. This is Doug Hammett signing off.